Oh, yeah, we're back. You guys recognize us. Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations. It's me and Jet. This is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the new Danny Brown album,
Quaranta.
That's right. Thank you guys for clocking in. Please hit the like, and, you know, we got stuff inside. The Discord that we just started is fun and vibrant. A lot of really interesting people posting in there. And we're having a lot of conversations about everything. People on the screen right now are people we rock with, some of our Patreons, some of our affiliates and friends and people we support. Please read theory. Please listen and take music seriously. And also, please just read dope shit about music. Boom. Today, with this Danny Brown album, 11 songs, 34 minutes. This is Danny Brown's, 12th album? How many albums is this? 11? 9? 7?
No.
12?
I mean, I suppose, once you start throwing in
Should have done the homework.
Mixtapes,
I should have done the homework. But this is, I guess the definitive capstone here is that this is 10 years after his 30 album, Triple X. 30.
30, and Quaranta is 40 in Spanish. Yep.
So this is a considerable amount of time since he really entered the music space for under a larger spotlight. Because of course he had the hybrid before that.
Yep.
There's talks of him about being involved, perhaps signing to The Rock, and he's had quite a long career, and a lot of his personal life has been very public facing, especially since he started podcasting with Your Mom's House network on YouTube. And this is the first Danny Brown solo album that we have reviewed on the channel. We did review Scaring the Hose
and the DLC
in
pack.
the DLC earlier this year, but this is our first time to really talk about Danny by himself. So one of the things we do is we let you guys know how we know the artist and our general thoughts on the artist. And why don't we get into that, Jet? Because I think that you are probably one of the bigger Danny Brown fans that I've encountered in my life. You're one of the few people that I can quote a fucking skit from the hybrid or from 30, and you finish it. That's kind of rare,
especially Ugg Mug hit.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and so how are you familiar with him? What are your general thoughts?
Massive fan. He's one of my favorite MCs out ever. I love his ability to blend so much. It's it's street shit. It's funny. It's weird, nerdy, alternative shit.
Yeah.
It's all of the above. And Triple X, I know Atrocity Exhibition is the one that is generally seen as the classic, the masterpiece, but
the magnum opus.
The magnum opus. But for me, it's Triple X. I think Triple X is basically a perfect album. I don't know if I have any skips on there. Maybe Detroit 187. But I
could listen to Pac's Blood right now for the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, we could sit down and just listen to that track on a loop.
I go back to that album much more than I go back to Atrocity Exhibition.
Yeah.
But I think Atrocity Exhibition is kind of one of the greatest albums that came out in the last 10 years, during the 10s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easily.
But yeah, I mean this. I love Danny Brown's work.
Yeah.
I love his ability to flip back and forth between being darkly humorous and also just painting a devastating image to getting turned up and making stuff for the club. His flexibility and also just his unique idiosyncrasies. Massive fan.
Word. I'll say the same, man. I'm not exactly sure that I could pinpoint the exact moment that I got into Danny Brown or what album was out, but I know the hybrid and Triple X were I was right there during that time, and I really enjoyed his art at the time. One of the things that's kind of important to me in my listening enjoyment or enjoyment of an artist is a sense of authenticity. And I know that word authenticity is a bit convoluted. I guess it'd be better for me to say how genuine I feel that their music is and their art is. And with Danny, he does have so many different sides and facets to himself, but some of these stories about his struggles, the pain, and his experiences and coming out of them and how I followed him over the year have become very important to me and the way that I enjoy his art.
It's almost weird to think about Danny Brown as an inspirational figure.
Word. Also, I rock with him because he's another Philly Negro and shit,
Negro.
right?
I feel
Like,
dirty
yeah.
saying that. I don't like using that
Nah,
phrase.
it sounds racist and shit. Like, it's like when you say
Philly
like,
Negro.
wow,
Like,
are you sure they're called Puerto Ricans? That sounds racist. But no, like he's a nigga Pino like me. And I just tend to like him. Now with this album, I feel as though that there's been kind of a mixed reception of it.
Yes.
It being 40 and just kind of knowing the things that he's been going through, he's one of the only artists that I actually kind of know about more in their personal life than like I know that Aesop's gone through things. I know that, you know, a lot of the artists that I like have gone through things. I've seen some Me Tooing with some of the underground independent artists, and I've heard stories like some of them even being friends is like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of kids, like things that I didn't think that I would know about Danny. I've found out over the last years.
What?
And for some reason, his personal life has endeared itself to me in a sense that I don't want to see him fail, and I don't want to see him spiral into like just self-destructive, devastating habits that have been sprinkled throughout his entire career. Whether he's talking about like the regret of selling fucking crack to crackheads, take their shirts off and they're swinging around, their titties are hitting him in the back, or it's just him having a good time scaring the hoes. It's like one of those things that was kind of important to me in the kind of dissemination and in the listening of the way I listen to his music.
Yes.
You rightly told me like, oh, okay, just chill for a minute on projecting into how Danny's doing after the scaring the host. Because I was like, I don't know if JPEG Mafia is a good influence for him right now. And you're like, well, we don't know that at all.
We don't know him,
so it's better for us not to project into that, even though that's something that like obviously was on my mind. With this album, in the mixed reception it's received, I haven't listened to any reviews. I've talked to Jed about it, and we'll get more into our thoughts. And I also saw like the Pitchfork.
People were talking about the Pitchfork review on our Discord channel.
I didn't read the review, but it got like a 6.5.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad score, but it's definitely not a great score. And I was just kind of wondering how people are listening to this and if you're able to separate the art from the artist. And I started thinking about a variety of things. Like,
I don't know if that's possible on this record in particular, because normally when people talk about separating the art from the artist, they're using it to say, well, I'm still a fan of this artist, even regardless of their like trespasses or how they fucked up. And in some cases, I'm kind of like, yeah, fine, whatever, not a big deal. On the other hand, like, yes, every R. Kelly song is about fucking 15-year-olds.
Right.
You know, and I can't separate those things. In this album's case, I also don't think there is any separation from art to artist, because this is such a deeply personal record.
Exactly.
And it's so straightforward. You know, on so many Danny Brown tracks, it's like he layers his work in so many jokes and just absurdity, and he self-deprecation, you know, weird production, things that kind of separate. Whereas this one, it's very front and center.
Accountability. It's like a therapy.
The therapy session. And you know, one thing, you know, I'm a certified Pitchfork hater, but I did read that review because people were talking about it. And to be honest, I kind of agreed with all of it. This is a very kind of straightforward Danny Brown just getting things off of his chest, deeply, deeply personal, uncomfortably so at times. The beats on here tend to all sit around a similar BPM range. There's only one kind of like weird Danny track on here, which was the lead single Tantor, which seems to be the track that a lot of people didn't really care for.
I personally didn't love that one that much. It's an Alchemist beat too.
Yeah, it's an Alch beat. That's right. And you know, I think it's what Alch is doing is interesting. You know, you got this little guitar refrain. The loop feels like it doesn't quite.
It's offbeat. It's a little bit offbeat. It's a bit off kilter.
And you know, it's fun, but it definitely feels a little
he meets
disposable.
Danny at an energy you think Danny would be at.
Yes. But yeah, in terms of this album, you know, I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down in whether or not we like it, because I think at this point everybody's made up their mind on how they personally feel about it.
I'm mostly just trying to figure out like how I like it and what reasons it is that I like it, right?
Yes.
As a piece of music, I think that all of these songs work pretty well. It is a distance from what you would expect from Danny.
Yes.
But I've also been, a lot of these songs he's using his normal vocal refrain or his old. It's not his speaking voice. It's his
No.
old rapper voice, right?
Yes.
And I've said in the past that like I like that Danny voice. I like that about the hybrid. I like that about spots in his careers where he falls back to that. And a lot of this album, he does do that. Most of this album is just a kind of sober, and I don't mean necessarily sober in terms of like drug usage, but it is just a
That
him
too, but yeah.
taking an account of the things that have happened in his life, how he's gotten to these points, and exactly where he wants to be. And there's an aspect of this album that is like, if you were to just like listen to Danny Brown for the first time and not care about his career, this music doesn't really hit all that well.
No.
The themes that he's talking about are not necessarily super deep, and the ones that are kind of like, you could take something like Jen's Terrific Vacation, which is about gentrification.
Yeah.
Like the video complements it well and it's beautiful and thought out, but it's not necessarily like some academic or deep look into it more than you would have with the regular motherfucker on the side of the road that knows a little bit about gentrification. Things like he was in love, but he didn't trust her. Things like I was on drugs. I sold drugs. I don't do that anymore. Things like fucking, this shit saved my life, but it also ruined my life. These are like, that's dialectic, right? Like the contradictions of the good and bad.
You got
and,
a house and a car,
things.
but since in the last 10 years, but
and you're alone. Yeah, like these things are not necessarily interesting. But I think that kind of like with Jay-Z, if you're Jay-Z's maybe best is not the word. Jay-Z's most interested fans have followed his career and take into account how his life corresponds with the art that's coming out, those moments in time. And for me, as a Danny fan, I really like this record because the place that it finds Danny in, the seriousness that it finds Danny, and kind of the accountability and just like this look on that adds to why I like the music.
yes, and I do think also this album functions better outside of the vacuum of just the album by itself, but within the broader context of his discography. As a successor to Triple X, it's an interesting listen because Triple X is a very broad and diverse record with a lot going on. This album,
it's youthful, exuberant, it's
right.
fucking hard and powerful.
Whereas like a decade has certainly passed since Triple X on this record. It also works in comparison to Scaring the Hose, which is a often bombastic and exuberant record, and often you can't even make out what Danny Brown is saying. On Lean Beef Patty, I have absolutely no clue what Danny Brown is saying. Like you have no idea what he's saying. On this, like you can make out more or less every single individual syllable on this record.
Yeah.
It works in contrast to, you know what I'm saying, as well, because that record very explicitly didn't have any kind of broader theming or any kind of linking thread that joins the whole thing
The
together.
linking thread is like Q-Tip was here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I like that album, but I didn't like walk away from it being like, hell yeah, this meets Triple X, the Hybrid or Atrocity Exhibition. It was just like, it's fine.
This is the opposite. This is a deeply condensed, the album's about a few themes that are all very closely tied together. Even Jen's Terrific Vacation, which is more broadly about gentrification, is Danny's relationship to his hometown, which contrasts really nicely with Fields off of Triple X, or Detroit 187, or East Side, West Side, Northwest, South. He does a really, really good job of kind of tying those things together on that record. Something's just missing for me.
I think that I would feel the same way about it if we didn't have Scaring the Hose.
Yeah.
I think that Scaring the Hose, being able to have that kind of wild, exuberant, off the wall, unpredictable, Chihuahua screeching Danny, if we didn't have that look where he's like, make what you do look easy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we didn't have that, then I might be like, wow, this album's missing something. It's missing the Bruiser Brigade tracks. It's missing JUS. It's missing, Z Loopers. It's missing all of these things. But because of the album, because of that distance and also how it's obviously tethered to 30, I kind of see it as like a coda to 30, kind of like this isn't supposed to be Danny's 444 Jay-Z, my last hurrah. This is like Danny being like, look where it's been 10 years and I'm reflecting on all of that, and I'm not trying to impress you. I'm putting out art that is me where I'm at right now, and nigga, do you fuck with it or do you not? Like it doesn't matter. And the thing is, for me, is like when I start to make concessions or try to equivocate on why this album's like greater than the sum of its parts, I kind of feel like I'm doing a disservice, because there's a lot of shit on this album that I think is great. The list of producers that we've got on here, and the approaches, Quaranta produced by Holly. We've got an Alchemist beat. We've got 2 Quelle Chris Keys tracks, which I both think are dope. Skywalker, who I'm not familiar with.
Skywalker's worked with Danny before. I think he produced some shit on Triple X, actually.
I say I'm not familiar with because I couldn't tell you like other projects or specifics, but I know the name. Yeah. But we've got Paul White, who has done a lot of work with Danny, also did work with Open Mike Eagle, Hella Personal Film Festival, makes sense, Hella Personal. And like we've got the Casa Overall production on that, who Casa has an incredible album this year that I wouldn't necessarily call hip hop, but it may make my non-hip hop albums of the year list. Animals. And I think you were telling me that Semi-Am beat is old. Was it you telling me that?
I don't think that was me, but
okay, because Celibate with Mike, it's got a Semi-Am Casa Overall beat. I thought it was like a Semi-Am beat that Casa Overall kind of freaked or whatever. I don't know. Sven Wonder, another one by Paul White, and then Kaylin Ellis.
Yeah,
these songs are like really good, but I think what's missing is like the more frenetic, powerful, crazy Danny tracks. It might be in between these on a different track list.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like the last 3 tracks are like, you walk away from that shit, it's just like, damn, Danny, like what the fuck, bro? Yeah. Like, yo. I got 5 on it. Like I'll give you $5 for, you know what I mean? Let me help you out. But it's a sobering album, even though there's lots of parts that are kind of just like, yeah, hell yeah.
What?
Like even Jen's Terrific Vacation, right? The song's good, but the video with the song is art. That fucking video is amazing.
I haven't seen it. I gotta get on.
Oh man, it's just dope. It's basically like him and perhaps somebody that's supposed to be like his grandmother, and they're just in the house, and there's a bunch of hands just taking shit off of the walls, removing their clothing and shit like that, and slowly the house becomes more and more bare as he goes off on gentrification. And you know what we like to do, sometimes we do get really kind of like theory driven on this and talk about things like gentrification. We've done that in the past with the Sky Zoo and probably some other tracks, you know, but like, yeah, maybe I'll have some books to recommend about gentrification at the end if I can remember. But yeah, this is generally pretty good. It's just kind of fucking sad.
It's a very sad album.
And sober.
I compare and contrast Open Mike Eagle, Anime Trauma, and Divorce.
Ah, that's a good pool, actually. Like, that makes a lot of sense.
There's this similar, deeply personal. It's slower than what you might normally expect. You feel kind of privy. Even though Danny Brown has always kind of been very open about his personal life on record, I definitely just remember, even on first listen, this album just leaves me feeling kind of dirty. Like I feel like I'm like, oh, like, you know, I'm honored that Danny Brown thinks it's good for us to listen to, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I should be listening to this.
Well, the thing that it made me feel was like, it's like a homie telling you like some real fucked up shit about their life, and you're just like, I got nothing for that, bro. Like nothing substantial to alleviate the pain or anything like that for you. You know what I mean? Like, what do I got? Some fucking platitudes for you? You know, like I appreciate you sharing this with me. Is kind of the way I walked away from the shit. But you know, even with that said, like there's moments on the album that I think are just fucking live. I really like Ain't My Concern, produced by Quelle Chris and Chris Keys. He gets the fuck off on that, talking about kind of the state of rap music and shit. And I love when a motherfucker that's been around hip hop for a long time talks some shit about rap music. I think it's hilarious when Danny does it. You know, like when he was talking to Peggy, he was like, "Why do all these niggas sound like Batman?" You know what I mean? I'm hell yeah, bro. Like I like that song, and that's not something that's like, here goes some sad shit. It's like, here goes how I feel about it now. Dark Sword Angel. You know, that highlights some of like the authenticity, the genuineness. He's talking about how like Smoke with Dave Chappelle, nigga thinks I laced him. That's something that I've heard Dave Chappelle talk about, you know, and Danny's just like, nigga, I ain't lace you. You know what I mean? Like but that's like, you get that shit from Danny, and that's how that's how open, public-facing Danny is with it, and that's why I think that this connects with me on that level of being like, oh, you sharing some shit with me, like, damn, bro. Might stab a nigga if you come between me and my crawfish. Like, that's not sad. That's like,
yeah, it's funny.
Motherfucker like crawfish. The young black and poor with Bruiser Wolf. The way he starts off that verse is so real to me. You know, it's nothing really new in the canon of rap. Like, you think about that, that's like the whole Ghostface fucking All That I Got Is You is about. You know, let me change the channel with pliers. Wet clothes on a porch. We ain't have a dryer. Spending food stamps, wait till you leave the store. You know what I mean? Like, my cousin always pee in the bed. Like, that's some shit that some of us grew up with. I didn't have my shit that bad, but my best friend Maurice Stewart, when I go to his house, we sleeping head to toe. Nobody wants to sleep with little Chris because Chris pissed the bed all the damn time. We was outside, young, black, and poor, stealing candy from the AM, PM, and the Circle K because we didn't have no food at their house, and we run around as 10 years old. Like, I like that. Like, Jen's Terrific Vacation. You know, I go on and on about fucking gentrification and whatnot. That's great, and that's not like I'm real sad. That's like some real life shit. Yeah. And that's kind of, this album is sobering, but it's not super sad. It's just those individual moments that kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Celibate. I was. Oh wait. I skipped one.
Okay.
Down with It with Paul White.
Down with It.
I love that beat in the tone of Danny.
Danny and Paul White is like is maybe my favorite combination.
It's a dope.
It's
fusion.
a really dope fusion.
Yeah, it's really dope. And you know, typically I don't really care. That's one of the songs that I'm like, oh, that's a pretty sad song. Yeah. But it's like typically I'm not the type of cat that cares about your love songs and shit, bro. Like I don't care about you rapping to me about getting hoes or how you feel about hoes or thoughts or whatever or your relationships breaking up. That's just never been something that resonated with me. But with this, I'm just like, damn, Danny, that sucks, bro. You fucked that all up, didn't you? You recognize the regret. I've got some of those in the back catalog, you know what I mean? But the guitars and everything at the end, it's just so kind of full and beautiful that you take it more seriously than you do a lot of other Danny tracks. Because Danny's music, even though he's being real with themes, there's like a facade of like everything is okay. Yeah. On this album, the songs that are very personal, I feel like that kind of that veneer is kind of removed, and he's like, look, nigga, I'm out here, I ain't got no shirt on. I'm saying
even the cover of the album just laid it really bare, right? It's just him in a black t-shirt, like looking sad. There's no veneer of you know, the painting on old or the data moshing on Atrocity or even the, you know, the girl with the ecstasy tab on Triple X. It's very
and you know, like you were showing me some pictures he was sharing,
like parody
like versions,
like
shit,
Yu-Gi-Oh, like standing there looking sad.
And like, you know, that's the thing about Danny. It's like he very much is like that type of artist. It's like, this is serious as fuck, but you know, I'm doing it with a smile on my face. It's some real, like, I am Pagliacci. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm the clown that people go to, but shit is fucking really rough. But Celibate with Mike, hosts treat me like wormholes. Bro, that I was texting with you during the Down With It with my first listen. I was like, this is all right, this is pretty dope. And then like 3 minutes later I was like, nah, nigga, this shit is fucking amazing. You could look at the timeline, like we was chatting and shit. I was like, nah, this shit is amazing. Because that fucking chorus is just ill. I used to celibate.
Spend some time in a celibate.
And it's like that beat is ill. Fucking Mike is ill on it. I love that. That's one of my favorite songs of the year. Shakedown. I think that's really catchy. I like the fucking singing on it. The last three songs is kind of sad.
The album kind of because I definitely when I got to Celibate, I was like, oh, this is like, we're not gonna get the freneticism.
Oh yeah, or like some weird, you know, Chicago
or
footwork,
like an outer
weird
space type beat, or a darky freaker beat or whatever. Like, you know, and that was not. That's just not what the album is. I personally do get this sense of like, I guess, I mean, you know, ultimately it's not what I wanted, but I'm glad it's what we got to. I'm very curious where Danny Brown goes from here, because I almost feel like after a record like this, I don't know if I could listen to another old, you know, with like a bunch of party tracks. I'd be like, oh, like, are we just back to businesses? You know, when your friend drops something on like that on you, like things. And Danny Brown's not my friend. I don't know this dude. I don't want to try and, you know, develop a parasocial element or anything. But it's like, when somebody drops something like that on you, you do wonder, like, oh, you know, are we gonna just go to the bar and talk about sports again? Like, you know, there's
a part of me that feels like if we would have gotten another Danny that was like what's the one called? You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
If we would have got another Danny that was like that for Quaranta, like 40, I would have been more disappointed. With this, it's just like, all right, like this is a good, not a bookend, but this is a good milestone of who he is as an artist. And I could tell you, like, as a person who's struggled with addiction in my life and has tried to, you know, I quit even just cigarettes. I'm still kind of like, I'm 45 days in and I'm still kind of like, I see somebody smoking a cigarette, I'm like, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Like a person that, when I did sobriety, with alcohol sobriety, my first year was fucking tumultuous. Yeah. You know, people would be like, yo, Meg, why you looking sad in the club? And I'd be like, I don't know who the fuck I am. I don't know who I am. Like, you have an entire life of all your interactions being fucking boosted by alcohol and substance that finally, when you don't have those things, you're not sure if you ever were yourself or who self is. And that's why I'm kind of just like, I don't know what to expect from Danny, but I'll give it time. Like, I don't watch. Do you watch his podcast?
No, like clip.
I've seen an episode or two.
My man JT, who's probably watching this video, he always recommends. He's always recommending shit to me. He's always like, "Yo, you need to peep this. Like, this is really funny." And like, you know, I do really enjoy Danny Brown as a figure. I'm just not really a podcast guy.
Yeah. I've watched a few, and it's like I kind of like, you know, like. I don't follow it close like that, but I've watched a few clips, or like when somebody's on there, like when Peggy was on there, I was like, all right, let me tune in. I've never seen an interview with Peggy, and like I've seen some old shit with Danny. Let me see how they are. Yep. But in the future, I'm just kind of looking forward to like seeing like where Danny goes. Like he's grown. There's something to say about ageism. Right? There's something to say about ageism in hip hop. We were just having this conversation about Andre, and Andre feels like he's too old, or he feels disconnected, or he doesn't feel like the impulse to rap and try to maintain that part of his creative self in the public space anymore. Yeah. Even to the degree that's like it don't seem like he's even making tracks for himself like that. No. When you have an artist like 40 years old, these kids is like 20, like to them, we washed. Like Danny old as fuck. Yeah. Like Danny is like a year older than me or some shit, right? We some like Zennials, like Gen X millennials. We're like that weird group, the last of the Four Element kids. And I'm kind of, there's something invested in me with Danny with that. And I'm looking forward to see how maturity looks on him, because I'm trying to figure out how maturity looks on me too. Right. So if his music goes a direction and it's not for me, damn, he lasted a lot longer than some of my other great disappointing hip hop heroes. Oh, for sure. I haven't liked the Ghostface album in fucking 20 years. Supreme Clientele, maybe Bulletproof Walls, like the last Ghost. I was like, this is the Ghost I like. Everything else went elsewhere. And so if Danny goes elsewhere, I'm fine with this being like a books, like a, you know
Danny
what I mean?
Is also not of the same like industry background that like a Ghostface, you know, like the Wu-Tang are. You know, this
Which
album
is
was
good.
Like Triple X was released on Fool's Gold, and Quaranta's released on Warp, which was also an interesting kind of thing. You know, when I heard that the new Danny Brown was going to be released on Warp, I was like, oh, is this going to be some weird electronic-y shit? You gonna run that? All right.
I'm just gonna, I fuck you up your train of thought because you're like, nigga, shit. Nah, it's interesting to see where it's at. Like I am not a person. I'm not an old head. I'm not a cat that's like, shit was good back in the day and it's not good now. Some of my favorite artists just started making music a year and a half ago or something. You know what I mean? Like really blown up like recently. I've never been of that temperament, and I am still of the temper like there's dope shit, there's whack shit, and most of y'all are on whack shit. With Danny, if he starts making shit that I'm like is weak, it's just like I didn't love old all that much. I'm not a super fan, but he is one of the artists that I am a little bit more personally invested in what he's doing, because hearing where he comes from, having similar like aspects of who he is and how I feel about shit, I just kind of like wish a nigga be all right.
More than anything, yeah,
just like do whatever, bro. And I would like a Scare in the Hose again, but you know, there was like an interview where he was talking about like, I don't know if Peggy would want to make another album with me again. And people were like, oh, that sounds like they didn't have a good relationship. I'm like, no, it sounds like he's being accountable. As a nigga that has been to AA meetings, sometimes you just get to the point where it's like, and Jay, you hear me say this shit too, it's like, I don't feel like I did nothing wrong, but sometimes I feel like, hey, I was kind of like a little bit
What?
hard on it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, so I'm accountable like that, and Danny is too. I just do we have any questions that were asked of us? Baron asked, how does this stack up against X? Triple X. That's
I mean,
we got to that. We laid all that shit out.
It's
right?
an addendum to Triple X just as much as it is something that stands in opposition to it.
Yeah.
You know, they are obviously thematically parallel to each other.
It's a milestone. It's a stone marker that shows the distance that he's traveled, and like they're very different albums from very different people. It's the same person, but he's a different person now. And if we didn't have Scaring the Hoes, I'd be like, nigga, I want scared hoes with this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted more scary shit.
You need more
like,
chat.
Yeah,
Like,
you know, because you go back and listen to Atrocity Exhibition, it's like, oh shit, we're on some fucking unbroken ground.
Yes. And ultimately, you know, at the core of it, this album is less fun than all of the other albums. It's not an album that I'm like, oh, turn it up. But it is wonderful in its own way. And I do think that maybe this was an album that needed to happen. Just, you know, he wanted to touch base. This is where he's at. I hope he's good. I don't know what comes next.
You know, like, you perfectly encapsulate like my actual feelings about the shit. Like, this album is just less fun. And not all art is supposed to be fun. And not all art even is supposed to be like, not all music is to be digested over and over and over again. In the same way that film, like, you could rewatch fucking Dumb and Dumber 30 times and laugh at it every time. No. But ain't nobody watching The Godfather 30 times and being like, this is high art. This is high. It's like, you get it. And it's like, man, the impact of it, like, it's kind of like, you know, with To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yes.
I think that's the magnum opus from Kendrick Lamar, but I go back to other albums more than that because they're more listenable. This to me feels like a very strong milestone, feels very dope, and it's not one that I'll go back to a lot, but the first time I experienced it, it was a powerful experience for me. I'll rock with Danny. Favorite songs on the album?
Let's pull up the track list.
I didn't make notes like that.
Dark Sword Angel,
Bet, same.
Young, Black and Poor, and
you didn't use to sell a bit?
Shakedown.
Okay. all right, that's good. Dark Sword Angel, Celibate, and Shakedown.
Shakedown.
I love
Shouts out to Hanami. I'm looking forward to having a Hanami next year. I didn't get to have one this year. I'm trying to
Hanami.
I'm trying to look at some flowers and drink beer, man.
Yeah, I didn't do no damn, like, I don't know. Mega hates on popular shit to do all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me, bro.
Right, we'll hit Megado River and have a couple drinks in 6 months.
Made a sculpture of me, but my dick was too thin. Paint pictures of me, but they never get my chin. One right.
God damn, Danny Brown. Congratulations, bro. Like, this is a good album. I don't give a fuck what nobody said. It deserved more than a 6.5 to me.
I have no opinion on number reviews. Fuck a number.
I mean, that's true. That's why we don't do that here.
This album's a 10 and a 3. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know how you feel.
Greatest
about
album ever. Worst shit I ever heard in my whole life. I don't know. Actually, the worst shit I ever heard in my life was that Vast Air fucking quote. Did you see that in the Discord?
No.
Oh my God. So fucking. I don't have the Discord on this shit. But Baron shared a picture of like some Vast Air quote, right? And it was like the worst fucking shit. Yeah, it was the worst fucking shit. It was. I don't know where it's at. It's probably back here and shit, right? This is the general. Nah, it was just like really, really embarrassingly bad. Vast Air shit. I don't know what I'm talking about some shit right here. I don't know. It don't matter. It don't fucking matter. All the patrons are on the screen right now. We're gonna be back in better. Me and Jet were coming. We been going up and down through the shit. It's been a roller coaster here. Yeah, but I'm also going to be recording with Sano. I think Jet might stick around for it too. I don't know yet, but yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right, peace, man. Secret House.
Secret House.